So you're building a B2B SaaS product, right? Well, you're going to come face to face with this huge decision that can honestly make or break your ability to scale. And it all comes down to this. How are you going to handle your customers' data? It's a foundational choice, one that's going to affect your costs, your security, and your performance for years to come.
I mean, think about it. You've got some traction, you're signing up new customers, things are going great. But all that success, it puts a ton of pressure on your infrastructure. The database architecture that worked perfectly for your first 10 customers, well, it might just crumble under the weight of 1,000. So you have to ask yourself, is your database really ready for what's next?
All right, let's start with the most common approach, especially for companies that are just getting off the ground. It's called the pool model, and really, it's all about efficiency and sharing resources. In the pool model, every single one of your customers, we call them tenants, lives inside the very same database. The best way to picture this is to think of a giant apartment building. Sure, everyone has their own apartment, but you're all sharing the same plumbing, the same electrical grid, and the same foundation. It's one big happy family, mostly.
And just like an apartment building, this model has some fantastic advantages when you're starting out. For one, it's incredibly cost-effective because you're not building out new infrastructure for every single customer. Onboarding a new tenant is super fast. It's kind of like just adding a new row to a table. And you're making the absolute most efficient use of your resources.
But, and it's a big but, here's the catch. What happens when your neighbor in apartment 3B decides to throw a massive party at 3 in the morning? That's the noisy neighbor problem. One tenant running a huge complex report can slow the whole system down for everybody else. And data isolation is a serious concern too. A single bug in your code could potentially expose one customer's data to another. Not good.
And then, inevitably, this happens. Your first big enterprise client comes knocking. They absolutely love your product, but their security and compliance teams have ironclad rules. They cannot, under any circumstances, have their precious data in the same database as anyone else. And just like that, your efficient little apartment building suddenly becomes a huge liability.
So, what do? How do you solve for that enterprise client? Well, it's simple. You build them their own house. And this is the polar opposite approach. It's the whole idea behind the silo model.
Yep, if the pool model is a giant apartment building, the silo model is like a nice quiet neighborhood full of single-family homes. Every tenant gets their own house, they get their own plumbing, their own backyard, their own foundation. In tech terms, this means each customer gets their very own dedicated database.
Now here's the really cool part. This model directly solves every single problem we just talked about with the pooled model. Data isolation? It's absolute. The noisy neighbor problem? Gone. If one tenant wants to throw a party, it doesn't bother anyone else. Billing becomes a piece of cake because you know exactly what each customer is costing you. And customization? Way, way easier.
But of course, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Owning a whole house is way more expensive than renting an apartment, right? The cost per tenant skyrockets. Setting up a new customer means spinning up an entirely new database, which takes more time. And maybe most critically, the operational complexity, well, it can become a real nightmare. I want you to just picture this for a second. Imagine you have 1,000 customers. With the silo model, that means you now have over 1,000 individual databases to monitor, to back up, to patch, and to secure. A single tiny update to your schema means you have to run a script that works perfectly across every single one. The potential for error just grows and grows. Okay, so we have two models with completely opposite trade-offs, the apartment versus the house. How in the world do you choose? Well, here's the secret. It's not about which one is better. It's about which one is right for your business right now. Let's just put them side by side. It really makes it clear. The pool model, our apartment building, is all about shared resources and lower costs. It's simple at the start and perfect when all your customers basically need the same thing. The silo model, our single-family house, is about dedicated resources, which costs more. It brings complexity, for sure, but it's fantastic for those big customers who need a ton of customization. And this matrix, this is really the heart of the decision. You have to understand these trade-offs. Look, if your number one, non-negotiable priority is the absolute strongest data isolation, the silo model wins. Hands down, no contest. But if you're trying to optimize for low complexity and low cost right at the beginning, then the pool model is your starting point. You're basically trading simplicity for risk and security for cost. And the cool thing is, on Google Cloud, you have some amazing tools to pull off either strategy.
For a true silo, you can give each tenant their own GCP project. I mean, that's the ultimate blast radius protection. You can use IAM policies to lock down access like Fort Knox and use folders to organize your tenants. And hey, whether you choose Cloud SQL or Firestore, these patterns apply across the board.
Okay, and this brings us to what might be the single most important takeaway from this whole discussion. This decision isn't a permanent, one-time thing. Your architecture is not set in stone. It's a living, breathing thing that has to evolve right alongside your business.
I'm going to say that again because it's that important. Your first architecture choice is not your last. I can pretty much guarantee you that almost every successful SaaS company outgrows its initial design. The goal isn't to pick the perfect forever architecture from day one. The goal is to pick the right one for today while having a smart plan for tomorrow.
And this right here, this is the playbook. This is how so many successful SaaS companies do it. You start with the simple, cost-effective pool model for everybody. Then, when that big enterprise client comes along, you create a new premium enterprise tier that's built on the silo model. Over time, you migrate your biggest customers over to their own dedicated setups, and you eventually land on a hybrid model that gives you the best of both worlds.
So I'll leave you with this one last thought to really chew on. Take a hard look at your own system. Is it designed only for the customers you have today? Or are you building a foundation that's flexible enough to handle those enterprise-grade, high-security, high-value customers that you want to win tomorrow? The answer to that question will define your path to scale.